We're back. Hello, MACC members. It's Laurel Hanson, MACC's Program and Member Engagement Manager. And I'm here with another episode of the Ask MACC Workforce Edition podcast, brought to you by the Metropolitan Alliance of Connected Communities. So today we're going to have some real talk about workforce recruitment with some social entrepreneurs in the MACC network. We know our network is faced with ongoing and incredible challenges when it comes to workforce. There can be complex and seemingly insurmountable barriers to deal with, and that's why at MACC we launched the Workforce Solutions Initiative. That includes these recorded conversations about workforce issues along with additional resources in MACC's Workforce Solutions Hub online. So on today's podcast episode, I am joined by an elite group of social entrepreneurs in the MACC network. These business leaders are living the challenges of running a business within their organizations on a daily basis. Drumroll, please. Today we have Amy Haddy, Director of Thrift Businesses at PRISM and their Shop for Change. We have Marge Sutcliffe, Manager of Thrift Business at Valley Outreach and StyleXchange. Sonja Carr, Manager of Thrift Business at Interfaith Outreach, Resale Select. And Yudi Montes, Manager of Thrift Businesses at Neighbors Inc. and their Clothes Closet. So thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. It's great to see everybody. Let's start. I introduced you, but there's maybe a little bit more to get to know about you. So let's start with some introductions. And I will sort of pass the baton around, but we'd love to just hear from you, who you are, how you got into the work that you're doing, a little bit about that. And, if you want to talk about what's a typical day like in a MACC network social enterprise, we'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to go alphabetical and maybe throw the first question to you, Amy.
Okay. So I'm sorry, can you repeat the first question?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like how did you land at PRISM?
Oh, sure.
How did you put on this social entrepreneur hat that you wear?
Sorry, easily distracted over here.
Hey, that's business.
It is. I'm a career retail person, 35 plus years in retail, every type of retail there is practically. Big boxes, corporate, mall stores. I've worked at other thrift stores. So I was doing corporate retail, working about 80 hours a week, killing myself at a mall. And I saw that Shop for Change was looking for a manager. So I decided I would give it a shot and see what this place was like. I'd never heard of it before. It was a teeny tiny little thrift store in the middle of some offices. My husband actually told me, don't apply there. You won't want to work there.
Was it their original location?
The original location.
That was a little different.
Yes, much different. It was not a storefront. It had been an auto repair business at one time. So there were weird little rooms in this place. And one of them was the thrift store. So I applied, they hired me. And then we're off to the races. Within a year, we had moved into a brand new storefront, added about 2,000 square feet to our sales floor. And so I've been here 7 years now this summer.
That's amazing. You've done amazing things for PRISM. That's the organization's come a long way. Is there a typical day for you? Are you wearing all the hats, or what are things like for you?
Wearing all the hats. I do everything here that any regular retail manager would. I run the register. I do the opening and closing procedures. I price all the higher end items that we get in. I authenticate the jewelry and the purses, and I price all those things. I've been known to unpack clothing when we need to do it. Price racks, price cards. I do the donation door. And then also being a director in PRISM, I'm also doing PRISM stuff at the same time. So there's never a slow day for me. It's always go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So for listeners, if you haven't checked it out yet, Shop for Change at PRISM is in Golden Valley. Super easy to find, a great little shop. All right. Thanks for that intro. Let's pass the baton to Marge. Let's hear from you, Marge. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about Valley Outreach's business.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. So StyleXchange is actually in a new phase. So we started as a clothing closet, distributing clothing for free. And then in April of this year, so April 2024, we're about 6 weeks into it, we launched a full sort of blended thrift store as well as free store for clients. So my intersect with that work, I've been sort of bouncing around food recovery work for most of my career in local nonprofits before finding my way to Valley Outreach. And it was sort of a unique take on the challenge of distributing too much of one thing to people who have a need. And that was something that was really interesting to me. So over the past 3 years, I've been working to get this thrift social enterprise model up and running in a way that sort of respects what we have for clients already, while building a public offering as well. So that's kind of how I come to it. The day in the life for me, running the register, like I said, throwing donation bags like over my head into a pile. A lot of moving one thing to another place and then to a place later on in the day. During donation high season, we're kind of
Logistics.
slugging through donations from garage sales right now. So as garage sale season picks up, I'm sure everyone is familiar. We're making as much space as we can, but lots of hats.
Yeah, never ending. Yeah, garage sale season is definitely peak logistics at a thrift business. Yeah, and so StyleXchange, as Marge mentioned, is at Valley Outreach, and they are in Stillwater in the East Metro. Thanks for being here. All right, let's meet Sonja Carr.
Hi there. Thank you. I started as a part-time liaison. I came from the paralegal field. I do have a background in retail and reselling for many, many years, and took this on as a part-time, ended up creating the job into a store manager. And as everybody said, you're doing everything from, running the register to looking for volunteers to fill positions to figuring out what you're going to do with the donations you did not expect, how to price them, what to do with them when you have to get rid of them. So your day is always changing. We started out where we were volunteer run and operated. We have reversed that as post-COVID, and now we have more staff than we do day-to-day volunteers. And I've been with them for 12 years, so we've evolved into 2 nice size spaces, mini cubbies in the building to hide out and process donations or do what we have to do to get things, done and operating. And you just never know what a typical day is going to bring at Resale. So our goal is, to make $1 million. We're on target for about 690 this year, 705, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions. So yeah, check out Resale Select, Interfaith Outreach's social enterprise, and it is in Plymouth. I would call that the West Metro. So you're all definitely covering the Twin Cities. And last but certainly not least, let's meet Judy from Neighbors.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Laura, for giving us this great opportunity to participate in this podcast. This is my first experience doing it.
Great.
It's fun. So yes, I'm Judy Montes. I have been working with the organization with Neighbors Inc. Since 2012. But in 2017, the position as a store manager was in the closed closet was created. And well, I was ready for that opportunity. And since then, I have been managing the store. Yes, has been a very adventurous experience working there, because for over 40 years, the store was managed by volunteers only. But that was the moment when they were demanding a staff person there. And well, that was me. Seems like that was me. What can I say about a typical day for me? usually, well, be sure that I have the necessary personnel, for the different tasks and functions for the day. Be sure the register or checkpoint is the system is ready to function. Check the receiving room to have an idea how I'm gonna to distribute the work for volunteers. And we have an assistant too in the store. And like Sonja said about the garage sale, spring cleaning is that is something huge. And I think everybody is struggling with space and who is ready to help. And I always say working in a retail store, especially like a thrift store, is every day you have to ready to improvise. And because since we work with volunteers, you're not sure if they are gonna show up. And you have to be, moving around, moving people, changing tasks, especially during this time. And something that we did recently was creating an extra spot for volunteers at both shifts, morning and afternoon, during summertime. So that gives us the opportunity. Somebody say, well, I'm not feeling well, I'm not going to work today. Well, we have an extra spot there that for sure somebody else is gonna take. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. And you've all brought up that trend of working with volunteers, working with paid employees, and maybe the shift that came somewhat along with the pandemic and the change in the workforce. So looking forward to talking about that today. But make sure, listeners, make sure you check out Judy's store. It's at Neighbors Inc. It's called Close Closet, and it is in South St. Paul. So a wonderful array of folks. And, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking a lot about workforce today, and staffing and how do you recruit. And I want to just set a little baseline as the conversation starts. And maybe each of you can just give us a sense of, for your store, like, how many employees do you have, excluding volunteers? Let's focus on paid, because I think we have a spectrum of the sizes of teams represented today. And then also, how big is your business? Maybe just a general idea about how much your sales reach on an annual basis. We'll go ahead and start again with you, Amy.
Well, as of today, because I have a brand new staff member starting today, I have 4 paid staff members here at Shop for Change. And we do an annual of about $400,000.
Okay, sounds good. Marge, how about you? You're sort of in a new ramping up phase at Valley. Tell us what that's like.
Yeah, so at this time, it's a little early for projected sales for us as we kind of get our feet under us. But it's myself and the program assistant. So it's a staff of 2. And then we have around, I would say, 40 regular volunteers staffing the store and the sorting area for us, processing.
Great. And Sonja?
Right now we have 3 full-time, 1 3/4 time, and then about 60 hours in part-time cashiers. And we break that up between 4 staff members.
Okay. And what are your annual sales again? Would you repeat those?
Last year we did 650. We're on target to make between 690 and the goal is 705.
Okay. All right. And Judy, how about you?
Well, our model has been designed to work as a clothing closet to help the community. So right now we have 2 staff, including me. Both of us are full-time, right? And we count, this closet counts with at least 93 volunteers. And rotating, of course, different shifts and days,
What do you think your sales will be this year?
Our sales typically monthly is like 12,000. I would say 120 a year.
Yeah. So these are small, organically growing enterprises that are at all phases of growth and adding staff as you go. And so staffing is an ongoing and growing demand for these businesses, especially as you've all mentioned, how the volunteer environment has shifted and access to volunteers has become more and more challenging. So this is a pretty timely conversation. So I just want to throw out one more setting the stage question to all of you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how challenging is it for you to find somebody to work in your store, staff position? In particular, for employment, are you struggling to find people to work? Are there hurdles to finding employees? Is turnover an issue? Maybe just give us a glimpse into what that experience is like for you. And this time I'll go ahead and start backwards, and Judy, throw that out there to you. There's two of you. Has it been pretty stable, or have you had to find new people to
Yeah,
work?
I've been very stable. The assistant, she started, it's going to be 2 years in August since she started. But now we're in the transition,
Yeah.
like moving the clothing closet to a thrift store, but we can talk about that later. But for now, only 2 of us full time, and the rest of assistance is from volunteers.
Yeah. What do you expect as you are in the future going to be hiring more people? Do you think you'll have a hard time, an easy time? Do you have a plan in mind?
Well, we started planning and talking about that, but we have to build the business plan, the real thing. But like Amy said, she has 4 in there. I picture that we're going to need more of that, more than 4 staff in there.
Yeah. Sonja, how about you? You have a handful of employees. Have you experienced turnover? Has it been hard to recruit?
I think what I saw, it's a difference from just retail and having that combination of retail and nonprofit. And we've got some nods. That's been the struggle. You wear many hats in retail in a lot of jobs that we do. But when you put the mix with nonprofit in there, it becomes a whole different ball game. And I think that I had to be very transparent that we're working with our clients, we're working with the customers, we're working with the donors. It's a combination, so those hats are always flipping. And the interviews that I had, I did have a few that did not pan out because they had they just could not get the whole picture of how you put on those hats from day to day. 1 minute you're doing one thing, the next thing it could be totally, you're at the donation door, or you're running the store completely alone. So I found that, there were a few candidates that came in and just did not work well. They did not expect that type of work. They looked at it as retail, and it's much more than that. Longevity wise, once I got through that hurdle, I've had a full-time for over 3 years. Another full-time has been there over a year. And then my 3/4 been there several years as well. My part-time, I have to be very flexible with them because they have to be flexible with me because of that volunteer pool that we are pulling from to staff those areas that we're short. And that's really what I need them for.
Yeah. How complex to run a business where you have to constantly be balancing paid staff and volunteers, and the volunteer flexibility there where you don't really 100% know if they'll be there from week to week. And it's extra complex. I appreciate that unique issue, I think, with social enterprises in particular. Amy, how about you? How has recruiting worked for you? Or
considering I just I've had a position open since last October, and I just filled it.
Oh my gosh.
I had filled it once previously, but she did not work out. Within 2 weeks, she was let go.
Yeah.
It is a very hard, position to fill. It is not a typical animal in retail for sure.
Yeah.
The vast majority fail when I've brought them in at the volunteer management piece. That's where I have found like the hardest thing is to understand that part of your job is to make our volunteers feel good about being here, thanking them for doing their work, making sure you're doing the same work as the volunteers so that they see that their work is not just going for nothing and then you're sitting back getting paid and having a good time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of volunteer massaging, and I have great volunteers. I'm not saying that I have to work angles to get my volunteers to do stuff, but that's a big part of the job. My assistant has been here since August, but I hired her from my volunteers. She had been a volunteer
Oh,
previously for 4 years. And she was retired and she was interested in taking us on as a full-time job. So she's great, absolutely amazing. And I'm so thankful that she did decide to come on. But
yeah.
it has been a struggle. I mean, and what I'm looking for is even just a part-time job. It's 20 to 30 hours a week, but my hours, I don't have typical retail hours. We close at 5, so finding somebody that's available during the day. But my new hire, her mother works at JFCS, which is our companion organization, Jewish Family and Children's Services. So she came in understanding social enterprise or social work
Yeah.
because her mother. So that is something that I don't have to train on. She has retail and supervisory background, so she can open and close the drawers. I'm crossing my fingers she works out really well. I'm very hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful segue to a question that I had in particular. Like, what are the unique ways that you've been able to find employee prospects? Because we know that this hiring market is really challenging and employees have a lot of options and opportunities. So you brought one up where your volunteer pool can be a source for candidates and in a way, a little bit of pre-vetting for folks if you've had the opportunity to work with them. Has anybody else ever hired somebody out of a volunteer position into a staff position?
I have 2.
Sonja, tell us your experience there. Has that been effective?
I think it's been effective in the way that they see the whole picture walking into it. You don't have to explain what you're walking into, if that makes sense. And so they are part-time people. They were dedicated long-term volunteers, and they came aboard knowing that they were a volunteer. They saw some of my pain points, and they chose to look at this as a staff position, and they're great. They're committed. It wasn't as difficult of an interview working with them, and getting them through those hurdles and that process. So that's been a nice transition.
Yeah, that seems like a good pool, although I'm sure it doesn't come without issues as well. Because not every volunteer is going to make a great employee.
Well, I've had the issue during this process where I've had volunteers apply for the position that I am hiring for or have hired for, and I didn't hire them for various reasons. They just didn't work out, or they didn't have the skill set that I was looking for. And it becomes also an issue of volunteer management when you do have people apply and they don't get the job. So there can also be hurt feelings if you're using the volunteer pool for employment as well.
Yeah, it's messy.
It is.
Yeah. I think Judy and Marge, I think about your organizations as well, where you expect and perhaps anticipate you're going to need some staff. And what do you think you're just going to go out into the open hiring market and open the doors and see what happens? Or will you be looking to people in the inner circle who are already engaged with your org, or is it going to be a little both? Or what are you envisioning?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a little bit of everything. In, for example, right now, the partnership with Inver Hills Community College and St. Thomas University have been working really good for years, right? And especially from the St. Thomas, their business school students, they need a place for volunteer hours.
Oh,
Yeah, and you can see them coming back by themselves to volunteer. But an example we have right now, this is a guy, he's through, I don't remember what college, but he's going to start with AmeriCorps, but he has an amazing potential and he's very interested when the opportunity is open to work with neighbors.
all right.
Yes. And so, but for now, our volunteers are, the majority are, seniors because they're retired, but we're blessed with their skills, their knowledge, and we have to find the right task for them, depends on their experiences. And yeah, it depends on the age. So I started just like digging and doing some research and what if, when we are ready to start the retail store out of neighbors, how can you picture their volunteering? Can you be probably part-time? And some of them have been waiting for that opportunity to see how that is going to work, the days, the hours, and but for
So
sure,
volunteers, they're getting their foot in the door, and oftentimes they might be on that pipeline to hiring. And you brought up another interesting example too, where you're engaging college students, and then potentially they can work through that pipeline too. They could volunteer, they could become prospects for employment. So you're casting a wide net to a lot of interesting stakeholders there. I think that's a good way to approach it. Marge, how about you, as your organization is considering perhaps adding some dedicated hired folks to work in your social enterprise? Where do you think they'll come from, or what will be Valley Outreach's approach to recruitment, do you think?
I think it's similar to what Judy's mentioning. We have a few partnerships with a few different colleges that we're kind of the go-to for them to send students for service hours, things like that. And we see a lot of return there. We have several AmeriCorps folks in different positions who have since been hired on in different places at Valley Outreach. So we have a pretty high success rate there, actually. But something that Sonja mentioned about kind of volunteers knowing what they're walking into, that resonates with us as well. It feels almost like there's, with this specific hybrid model, there's kind of a secret sauce of like, yes, we can teach you how to run the register. We can teach you how to sort clothing, and you can learn all the brands, but there's this much bigger picture. It's just like, but do you understand the feeling that we're trying to provide here and the experience that we're trying to make sure that shoppers have when they walk through the door? And that's something that's a lot more difficult to train. So in our experience, kind of like pulling volunteers in and having them step into potentially part-time, full-time roles like that, I could see that being a pretty significant source of recruitment for us, just because that vision piece is so unifying. And it's much more of a soft skill than just,
you're hiring
the day to
for
day.
soft skills. So you're hiring for soft skills and for hard or fixed skills, and some of those are easier to train than others. So yeah, it's a very delicate balance, shall we say. I didn't expect the conversation to maybe go in the angle of volunteers as being that prospect pool, but that inner circle that already has like a commitment and a relationship, so that is a natural spot to look for staff hires in the case of your social enterprises. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. So since we're talking about recruitment and hiring and retention and those things, what we always like to say, well, there is a competitive advantage to working in our human services field, to working in our social enterprises. What do you bring forward? Like, what are the things in your organizations that would make somebody say, I want to work there? Because again, there are a lot, like you can't go into a business that isn't hiring right now. Why your business? Like what do you elevate as your advantage? And I would love to throw that out to Marge to start.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've highlighted pretty heavily here is that we're able to do both free and low cost for people. So offering multiple ways for people to engage with the store in the most accessible, best fit for them and their budget. And I think the other big draw, especially one that differentiates us between other kind of secondhand operations in our area, is just that all of the proceeds go directly back into filling gaps in our inventory. So specifically, we'll highlight very directly revenue from StyleXchange purchases, more hats, gloves, mittens, and winter coats for kids in the winter. So there's an extremely direct connect there between what we have too much of and what we don't have enough of, and how you as a shopper can make that difference for us.
Yeah. So for you, the mission is a competitive advantage for sure. Whereas other stores, you know, in the for-profit world would definitely not have that mission-oriented bent. Anyone else have a comment on that to add to what Marge said?
I will go. I think that when I have talked to my candidates, I've always asked them why they have interviewed or why they applied for the position. And they look back at saying, I want to get back to the community. I want to be part of the organization. And I think that is an advantage for a candidate coming in to actually be giving back to the community in this way, to have the business aspect, but also have the connection with the clients and the donors and all of that, the mission, the vision. As a organization, Interfaith, you know, has all the great benefits and rewards and, you know, but I think it's that the mission that draws them, giving back. And I think we're in an age right now, people like that.
Are any of you finding that the folks who work in your store are driven by the environmental benefits of what you do? Does that rise up as an advantage for folks?
I'm sorry, Lori, what was your question?
Yeah, I think we hear a lot that the mission is what drives people. I'm wondering, are we seeing any like green employees who are really driven by working for reuse and environmental benefits? Has that come up for you at all?
You know, there's something very interesting I found in many volunteers here working in the store, that when they find out that we have to recycle items, and they feel very motivated knowing that everything here is for a purpose. You know, we have the equality of donation. Donors are motivated by the direct impact that their donations have on the local community, but also the volunteers can see how is the impact about those donations. Because when something is not in good condition, we have to recycle, right? Like I mentioned. Sure. But knowing that those items are going to different companies for reduce something, they don't feel guilty when they have to put something on the recycle bin. They feel good that everything is using for a good cause. So,
sure. So it is a benefit. It is like an add-on sort of motivating factor for folks. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I always say with your type of social enterprise, it's that triple bottom line, right? It's benefiting the community, it's supporting your organization's mission, and then it's also, you know, a reuse environmental benefit. So it's like a triple threat, right? You've got a lot of reasons why somebody would feel strongly about wanting to, you know, invest their time and invest their career with you as well, and spend some time with as part of your workforce. So I know you all have growth plans. Some of you are at the very beginning of building your businesses. Some of you are well along the way and are just trying to continue to increase what you're able to produce. And so I'm just kind of curious about what do you see as an important next step in your growth related to staff, recruitment, workforce, your ability to retain? Are you encouraged? Are you challenged? Are you worried that those things will either hold you back or will be the key to your success? To sort of tell us a little bit about your growth path and how you intend to grow your team along with that. Amy, can I toss it to you first?
Sure. Well, we're still, I mean, for the amount of volume that we're doing, we're still a really significantly small staff.
You are.
And I mean, we have a stable of over 150 volunteers that regularly come through our doors. So they do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. Unfortunately, due to lots of different things, we're still part of the agency. So my payroll still comes from the agency's budget. And unless we can get a drastic increase in what's going on here sales wise, I feel that we're probably going to remain the smallest of a staff and keep working on increasing volunteer recruitment to help fill in the gaps.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So with the fourth person that I've added today, finally, I'm hoping that she can relieve some of the pressure that myself and my assistant have been doing, running the show entirely by ourselves since October. So yeah, I don't think we're really going to increase. I mean, we would probably have to double what we're currently doing for me to add another full-time position. So we may get another part-time down the road, but as it is right now, I don't think that we're going to be adding anything else in.
So you'll be weaving this blanket of volunteers and staff and making it work. And I certainly hear you with the demands that puts on the team, that growing the business and feeling a little bit hindered in your ability to grow the team. That is a daily challenge in what you're doing. Marge, how about you? As you've shifted your business model a little bit there at Valley Outreach, and you're moving into a new era at StyleXchange, do you envision you'll be doing any hiring to support that?
Certainly hope so. I think we're kind of in the same boat as Amy, where we're hoping to rely more on volunteers. We're kind of focusing in on how we can cultivate more activated volunteers, if that makes sense. So really trying to add duties on within scope of this like volunteer labor, but still kind of like having people step up in that way. But as far as paid staff that we're adding, I'd certainly love to see some added in the next 6 months. And our operating hours expanding from the 3 days a week that we currently have, it's somewhat limited, are more or less tied to that decision on whether or not we can add some more staff in, just due to the sort of constraints and just day-to-day operations split between 2 people. It's not feasible at this time. So fingers crossed for more staff soon.
Yeah, just amazing what you're all able to do on with such a lean team. That's very impressive. Sonja, how about you? Where you're headed with growth wise? Are you at your limit with staff? Do you envision adding any paid positions?
I think we're about at our limit. We have seen the decrease in that baby boomer leaving and not getting as many of those dedicated long-term volunteers as we were, 5-10 years ago. We see more groups coming in, so we're leaning toward getting volunteers in that are more skill driven into our needs, and then groups to get that day-to-day, in processing the incoming donations, cleaning things up, doing the little bit of non-skilled work that we have, or a lot of that non-skilled work that we all have. And that I think is where we're heading to. And I hope to be able to pick up some of the pace that those volunteers, those long-term dedicated volunteers that have been there for 8-10 years, that are now leaving, and what they brought to our mission and to the store as a whole, trying to fill those gaps. Those are hard shoes to to fill in some of
Sure.
those cases.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It is, I think that is the biggest challenge that I'm hearing from all of you, really. It's how do we continue to grow with this workforce that is a mixture of a small, dedicated team of paid staff and then a very large, committed yet variable pool of volunteers. So it's kind of amazing what you've all done. And again, I encourage anyone who's listening to go visit these stores, because you will be amazed at what they've been able to do with such a limited pool of resources. And frankly, knowing all of you, I know that a lot of that has been on your backs of being driven to make it work and to make this puzzle, put this puzzle together in a way that continues the growth of your business. Now, Judy, you're on the cusp of a new enterprise there at Neighbors Inc. with your thrift business. So you will undoubtedly be doing some hiring. So what do you envision? Like, what is the next step for you in terms of staffing this new store?
Well, for sure, it's a major change, moving the clothing closet to a retail location. Like you mentioned, 3 words: encourage. If we're encouraged, if we're worry and challenge, yes, 3 of those. Because the challenge I see is keeping the volunteers that we have right now, because they are very connected with the social impact, right? The clothing closet, giving for free. That is going to continue here in this building. But how to send the message that we're going to keep the triple win model, that we have prices strategies like other thrift store, like we're going to continue making a positive impact on the environment. And if we send the right message when we start looking for staff, for when I hope in the next fiscal year we're ready to move out, if we send the right message, combining all of that, all the 100% of the revenue is still coming to Neighbors Inc. to support all the programs. I'm sure it's going to attract new volunteers. I can picture younger volunteers, especially because we're picturing this like extending hours, right? Students, maybe they can work during the weekends and evenings. So we are looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
But this plan is a baby right now. It's still,
sure.
Yeah. That's the picture that we have on mind right now.
You have a lot to figure out, and how you're going to blend this new workforce of paid and unpaid staff in a new location. It's going to be wonderful to watch this develop at Neighbors Inc., who, a great long-term MACC member, and can't wait to see how you do it. This has been.
We don't want to scare our customers and donors that, now they're going to be separated and they're not going to continue supporting Neighbors. Yes, still is going to be Neighbors Inc.
Yeah.
Just only in a different place, and being able to expand the items. Because when I saw the Resale Select, Sonja, my respect for you, that is, whoa. I shared those pictures here and everybody was, wow, it's just amazing. Yeah. It's beautiful. You're doing a beautiful job in there. I love it. So and I can see doing something similar, having furniture and toys. Right now, Marge and Laurel, our store is our footprint is limited. And
well, not for long, but it is a wonderful benefit of the MACC network that you all can work together and support each other, and to be able to find peers in social enterprises, it's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
So I need to wrap us up. I've got one final question that I always like to end these conversations throwing this out there.
Mhm.
I just want to give each of you, first of all, thank you for sharing the insights into your world and your workforce. What advice would you offer other managers in the MACC network? And think of the audience, it's broader than social entrepreneurs. They could be managers in any aspect of a MACC member. Who wants to offer a word of advice? Who wants to start by offering a word of advice? Amy.
Invest in your people. Invest in the people that are there for you. Make sure your people have a proper work-life balance and they will be loyal to you forever. If you allow your staff and your volunteers and everyone around you to feel like they're able to contribute to you as well as their own lives, they will be much happier employees.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And true words.
Mm-hmm.
Good lesson. Anyone else have some advice to offer other managers in the MACC network?
I would say that be open-minded in working, recognizing each person's potential, to put into use for the store in this case, right? So at the same time, I would say have the person feel recognized for the contribution to the greater good. Yeah,
Excellent.
I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marge, Sonja, anything you'd like to add?
I would say be transparent.
Mhm.
And with that openness, be willing to change and be agile in what you're doing.
Fantastic.
Mm.
What do you think, Marge?
I'd agree with that. And then with a guardrail at the end, know when it's okay to just let things ride for a minute. I think there's a real temptation to keep moving and keep changing and try something different. And that has its place. And there's also a time for observation and maybe even rest to enter the conversation. So I think it has to be balanced.
Wow. You all came with such inspirational comments to wrap up this conversation. I would love to needlepoint all of those on a pillow because those are things that I would take away, and I'm definitely going to bookmark those comments today. They're wonderful. So unfortunately, it has been a rich conversation, but that's all the time we have now for this discussion. It's been great. I really appreciate Amy, Marge, Sonja, and Yudi. Thank you so much for spending some time with the MACC Network today. It's great to hear from you. It's great to hear an insight into your world and your workforce, and to just really be able to learn from you as MACC members in this network. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate it, and I can't wait for all of our listeners to be able to give this episode a listen. MACC members, you're encouraged to visit the MACC website and our Ask MACC page of additional workforce resources there. We've worked really hard to find a variety of information and links to helpful workforce content, and there is a whole series of these podcast episodes and conversations that little bite-sized listens to add some insight into your day. So please keep in touch. We're here to support you and our network of MACC members. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day and be well. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.